Guruve Gaura Chanjaya Radhika Ekadali Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tada Bhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dhanyavad Pranam devotees. So I have quite a few questions and answers to catch up on, but I wanted to give a sort of quicker response to a devotee who had a question regarding one of the classes that we gave at the Bhakti Intensive that just passed. So the intensive was also very, very nice. It was very well attended, and it was very inspiring being with all the devotees and receiving the encouragement by mutual association. Dandavat sadhana siddha prabhu. So, but one devotee who heard one of the classes, he had a question regarding, I think it was a first day evening class, which was on sambandha gyan. And his question was essentially, I don't have my phone in front of me, but paraphrasing, it was, if we come to bhakti in the beginning, then we don't really have sambandha gyan. So he gleaned from my class that night that you cannot practice without sambandha gyan. So his question was, centered around, well, if we're just coming to bhakti and we have not developed or understood sambandha gyan, what is that stage that we're in? Are we practicing bhakti or not? So all of our acharyas have mentioned that the entrance into bhakti is primarily first through shraddha. So it's mentioned ado shraddha tata sadhu sangha, etc. So ado shraddha means there is a preliminary stage of faith itself. That faith is the impression coming from the influence of a Vaishnav in some way, form, or fashion. So that influence of faith in the heart of a aspirant, which will either ignite previous bhakti sanskars that person had. Sanskars means previous impressions in bhakti, or it may ignite a new sanskar or impression regarding bhakti. In either case, that stage, ado shraddha, is a very last limit of extension into this world of prema itself. So the influence of that prema comes in the form of shraddha. Shraddha is an amazing and very powerful aspect of the internal or spiritual energy. I mentioned many times that in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned there, Anadi avidya yuktasha purushasha vedatmanam swato na sambhavanti anya gyanatva gyanado bhavet. So here it's mentioning that the jiva who has from anadi kal been yukta or bound to avidya, which means ignorance or material energy, can't extricate themselves. Swato na sambhavanti. They don't have that power. Anyat requires another. Gyanatva gyanado bhavet indicates sadhu guru. So the influence coming from sadhu guru of shraddha or faith has that power. It is mentioned about shraddha anupayani varjam bhakti unmukhi chitta vritti visesh. The influence of faith has the ability to create what is called mati. Mati means the discriminatory idea regarding the material world. In other words, not discrimination in the negative sense, discriminatory conception. In other words, one is able to, in Sanskrit it's called vivek. It means to discern what is my situation, why am I suffering, and it's embodied in the question that Sanatana Goswami Pad asked to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kayami Kenyamai Jarita Patrai. Who am I truly and why am I suffering? So that question arises in what is called mati, the stage of mati. And faith produces, the influence of faith produces that mindset, where we begin to question, what is the real nature of my existence? What is the material world? What's the alternatives regarding existence besides the material world? So that stage is faith. And when that faith bears fruit, it brings one to the lotus feet of a sadhu. So, adoshara tata sadhu sangha. So first we have to say adoshara tata sadhu, because doing the sangha of a sadhu then is another step. When a person has come to the level where they can deposit the potency that is that faith in the sadhu and begin to follow the sadhu, it becomes sadhu sangha. The first element that faith does is bring one in the company of a sadhu. Sadhu proximity, sadhu company is not the same as sadhu sangha. The word sangha means samyak rupein anugamana. So samyak means completely. It means at the point when one is doing saranagati. First prapatti, the desire to surrender, then saranagati, the elements of surrender, anukulyasya sankalpa, pratikulyasya vivajanam, lakshishiti vishwasho, guptavevaranam tata, atmanikshepa karpanya, saranga saranagati. So, when we come to that stage, that is called doing sangha, because then one is completely surrendering to the sadhu and following the sadhu's footsteps in terms of their achar, the realization of their prachar, and following also means to do it continuously without break, and also to do it with great humility, because the word anu here means both to follow continuously and in humility. So, doing sadhu sangha then becomes the result of the investment of faith in the sadhu and then doing saranagati. So, once you do saranagati, then from the sadhu, one gets bhajan instruction. When there's bhajan instruction, you act on that, it becomes bhajana kriya. And it also invokes the kriya shakti of Bhagavan and our Guru Parampara. So that kriya shakti becomes a subsidy in the absence of spiritual potency to practice effectively. Because in our own material constitution, atahashi Krishna namani nabhavad grayam indriya sevanmukhi jivado swameva spuratyada. In our own constitution, materially, the potency to serve the spiritual ideal is not present. The potential for it is there, but the potency is not there. When you, under the guidance of the sadhu, begin to follow their bhajan instructions, how to practice, at that point, the kriya shakti of Bhagavan and coming from the heart of Guru also subsidizes the practice of the aspirant. So it's at that point also that one begins to develop true conception of sambandha jnana. Because when you do saranagati to the sadhu is the representation or agency of Bhagavan. Sakshad harittvena samashta shastriya. Shastra is saying that Guru is the agency, sadhu Guru is the agency of Bhagavan in this world. So when you do saranagati to the sadhu, at that time, it arises in the consciousness of the aspirant the nature of being dasitva towards Krishna. Because Guru is the agency of Krishna in this world. It's not his own or her own entity. They're actually the agency of Bhagavan. So, the aspirant now has the first initial understanding of sambandha jnana. Because one puts oneself in the position of being das to Krishna. You understand? And then, Krishna seva vasan, the desire and the tendency towards service becomes instilled. And this is the natural and constitutional position. Mahaprabhu, when he answered to Sanatana Goswami's question, Kyami Kanema Jarata Patra, he answered, Jivera Sarupoya Krishnera Nitya Das. That the Jiva is the constitutional identity and constitutional position of being Das to Krishna. Understand? Jiva Goswami Pad also in Paramatma Sandarbha, he mentions Paramaika Seshitva. That the Jiva is the Sesh Tattva of Paramatma. Means that he is the position. Sesh, Dasatva are synonyms. Okay? So, this is the actual situation of the jiva, that they are das. And when you get some initial perception of that reality by Saranagati to a sadhu, at that time it is the genesis of sambandha jnana. Understand? Now, it may have been over many lifetimes and previous bhakti samskars that the maturation of that understanding becomes developed. When that maturation process takes place and the nature of being das of Krishna is instilled, the next iteration of that becomes the specificity of how I am das of Krishna. You understand? Then at the time of Diksha, Diksha Kale Bhaktagone Atma Samarpan, Se Kale Krishna Tare Kare Atmasam. At the time of Diksha, when one has truly become Saranagit, then it says that Krishna's own Shakti, descending in Parampara, Atmasam means it makes the practitioner or the aspirant or the devotee, it makes him Atmasam means like the nature of Krishna's associates. So that is an unfolding process, but the initial thing takes place at Diksha, because in Diksha, the Visesh Sambandha Gyan is given. The word Visesh means specific. So the specific nature of being Das of Krishna is given at the time of Diksha. That specificity has been born from a sanskar that has developed over many lifetimes. You can read in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 2.5.38, Rup Goswami Pad is directly described the nature of Visesh Ulas there. Yatotaram Asu Aswada Visesh Ulashamayipi. This is the shlok. Right? Visesh Ulashamayipi means, even though, because the context of this verse is that it's asked from a neutral position, there is some appreciation of the rasas being differently situated. So Yatotra means from Dasya Ras to Madhurya Rasa, there is from a neutral point of view, not from an experiential point of view. Because anybody who's experienced any ras, according to Chaitanya Charitamrita and all Sastra, they feel the fulfillment of that rasa. You understand? So there's no sort of order that this one is better, that one is better. But it says from a neutral position that can be observed. Yatotramasu aswadya viseshulashamayipi. But then the question is posed, but what causes the visesh ulas, means the particular kind of exaltation of mood in one particular ras. So then rati vasanaya. Rati vasanaya means impressions from a previous practice in bhakti. Understand? Praktanaka aduni chasti yasat bhakti vasana. So from previous impressions, and adunik means current impressions in bhakti, that initial samskar in that particular mood is nourished. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his tika or commentary on that verse, says this is from a samskar, an impression, which came originally from contact with the Vaishnav. Right? So that samskar, that samskar, gata samskar, because gata samskar means like a very deep impression. That samskar matures over the course of lives of practice, and when it reaches its maturation, at that time when one takes diksha, one has resonance with the mantras in a mature and complete way. One then can realize the visesh sambandha gyan one has in relation to Shri Radha and Krishna and Mahaprabhu. Understand? Then on the basis of that understanding, one begins to practice from that prism. In other words, the vision by which you see everything is from that angle of vision. So if you have received sambandha gyan in this particular mood or that particular mood, even if you do not know the details of that mood, still the conception of that mood and the example of your Gurudev, who generally is in that mood, becomes the model under which you're practicing. If your bhajan becomes more mature, then gradually, the internal substantive elements of that visesh sambandha gyan, it means, what is your naam, roop, age, dress, etc., those things begin to manifest in the consciousness. You understand? So, they are different according to different kinds of practice. like coming from Mahaprabhu, there are kind of two lines of the practice of Raganuga Bhakti in general. One is called the Bahirpant. Bahirpant means the line that has come from Sri Vikeshwara Pandit, whose appearance there I believe it is today, and to Gopal Guru Goswami, to Jnana Chandra Goswami, who wrote an actual Padati or methodology book on this, Gaura Govind Archan Smaran Padati. Then there's the Antarapant, which has come from the line of Swarup Damodar coming down to Raghunath Das Goswami, etc. Understand? So, and of course, in Manasiksha, Raghunath Das Goswami has expressed the internal adjustments to accommodate the practice of Rag Marg with Sambandha Gyan. In the 9th verse of Manasiksha, Marisha Natadve Vraja Vipina Chandravane, he actually gives how to understand the relational dynamic between the aspirant in Rag Marg and Shri Shri Radha Krishna and Shri Guru, etc. Understand? So, this is the meaning of being able to actually take up practice once Sambandha Gyan has been established. So those who are coming in the category of faith, it's a natural and organic maturation to this point of Visay Sambandha Gyan. The problem may come is if somehow or another that understanding is not there in the association that devotee has. So what will happen is the devotee will come to the point where there's a generic organic understanding of the constitutional position of the jiva, dasita, but the idea of the Visay Sambandha Gyan, for whatever reason, is not encouraged, given, understood. So therefore, kind of generic upasan means a generic kind of worship is done. It doesn't have specificity of aspiration. I want to serve Krishna like this because Krishna is Bhagavan. And because Krishna is Bhagavan, there are unlimited incarnations even of Bhagavan. So whom do you want to serve? Varaha, Narasimha, Ramchandra, Shri Krishna in Mathura or Dwarka, or Shri Krishna in Braj. You understand? Of course, if you examine our practice closely, that's been given by our Srila Prabhupada, and going back, looking at all the practices given by our line of acharyas in the Gaudiya line, then the practice is geared towards Braj Seva, right? Which is why it is called Raganuga Pravritti, means the progressive path towards Raganuga practice, or actually outright Raganuga Bhakti, when there's eligibility for it. Because Sakale Jagate More Vari Bhakti Brajabhak Vaiti Nai Shakti. It's clear in Chaitanya Charitamrita that the actual practice of Vaidhi Bhakti will not give one the goal of obtaining Braj. You understand? Yet we're saying every day, Morae, Avilas, Vilas Kunji Diovas, etc. Understand? When we sing our Tulsi Parikrama. The Tulsi Parikrama or the Tulsi Seva that we were given by our Srila Prabhupada, especially Radha Krishna Seva Pavo, Ye Abilasi, Ye Tamar Sarna Loy, Tara Vanchapuna Hoy, Kripa Kori Korotore, Brindavana Vasi. So it actually directly, openly begs for Brajvas. You understand? Brajvas. You understand? So we have to get in tune with those things. We have to reconcile the practice, the internal aspiration. Other than that, it becomes kind of ritualistic. And if it becomes ritualistic practice, that is called niyamagraha, and is not favorable for progressing in bhakti. You understand? Always any kind of practice of bhakti will give sukriti. But what sukriti awards genuinely is sadhu sangha. So we should not consider that the fruit of what we're doing is actual true fruit until we actually have sadhu sangha. And the basis of sadhu sangha means to know what is a sadhu. Sadnoti sadayati cha Krishna praying, iti sadhu. Sadhu means who's understood what is Krishna praying. At least understood it. What to speak of? Better that they've realized what is Krishna praying. They're called sadhu. Understand? And taking their association in the way I mentioned before, continuously, without break, following with humility is called sadhu sangha. Understand? And in that way one can understand what is Visay Sambandha Gyan, one can mature their practice. You understand? Other than that, it will become ritualistic, and then also it's possible at that point for sort of artificial surroundings to take place around that conception, because the conception is not really clear there. I'm the servant of God is a generic understanding. You understand? Just like I told at the intensive, We don't identify people, oh, hi, I'm a human being, hi, you're a human being. That's a given. That's a constitutional, at least materially speaking, that's a constitutional fact. But when anyone introduces themselves, they introduce themselves by at least the materially acquired specific identity they have as a human being. So, in the spiritual context, it's the same thing. Generically, we're all Das of Krishna. But we want to develop the specificity of what kind of Das of Krishna and the particular spiritual identity, etc., etc. You understand? This is the actual process. Where somebody falls in the process, they have to do examination and try to grow from where they are. Okay? All right, I don't want to prolong this. I wanted to answer Prabhu's question about how do you understand a person coming to the beginning of practice before they even know what sambandha gyan is, right? So again, there's two different kinds of scenarios that could arise from that. One is a person who is just beginning the path of bhakti, and another person who is reigniting bhakti samskars of previous lives. You understand? And if they are reviving samskars or reigniting the samskars of previous lives, then their maturation point from where they left off, that's what will very quickly become established in their practice. You understand? All right, my Dandavat Pranam. Shadan Shida Prabhu, I made all the classes available on the Facebook, so you can easily access them. And I'm very happy to see you here. My Dandavat Pranam. Hope you and your family are doing well. All right, to all the devotees, Vancha Kalpa Turvishya Kripashin Devacha, Patitana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Radhe Radhe.